It's the fourth of these Zoom calls that we've done. And I think most of you know that we had actually organised for Janet Ellis to be our guest today. And very, very sadly, her husband, John, who had been battling cancer for quite a long time, he very sadly died on Thursday last week, I think. So she let us know straight away that she wasn't going to be able to join us today. And into the breach stepped, I'm very grateful to her, stepped Melissa, founder of Kettlewell, and a company that she founded with her husband back in 2004. So I'm really grateful to Melissa for joining us. I just want to give you a little bit of how this is going to work over the next just under an hour or so. So first of all, I'm going to interview Melissa, which you will listen to because you will be on mute, but actually you'll hear us and hear the interview. And then in about a half an hour or so, I'm going to ask you if you'd like to go down into a smaller group, and that's an opportunity for you to get to meet a few of the other Super Troopers. We're usually a group of 6. I'll be in one of those groups, Melissa will be in another of those groups, so you might get us in a group or not, as the case may be, and there'll be an opportunity for you to have a chat. We thought today questions around colour in your life, really, how you use colour. And then we'll come back into the main session 10 minutes excuse me, 10 minutes or so later, and then we will have a wrap up with some questions to Melissa. So if you have a question for Melissa, you can use the chat function at the bottom. Bryony will be picking up those questions, and she'll be able to give them to Melissa at the end, and Melissa will answer them. And we will aim to wrap up somewhere around, I don't know, 10 to 5. 5 to 5, something like that. So let's get going. So Melissa, let's start with lockdown, because you as a business, just like us, obviously this thing hit us out of the blue. It was all quite daunting and difficult. And as a business, you sort of think, what's going to happen? Are we going to survive this? So tell us what happened when you when lockdown started for you.
Right, okay, so I remember the moment very well because we just received all of our new stock for spring summer. John had paid all the suppliers. We were ready to sell the book. In fact, one of the books had already mailed, and all of a sudden there was the news that we were going into lockdown and only essential businesses should continue. So John and I, normally we would agree with most things, but he said, I really think we need to send all the staff home, and we're a non-essential business, and I think we're going to have to close the business. And I just thought, oh my goodness, 16 years of blood, sweat and tears, and we're just going to close the business. Surely there's a way that we can keep going and keep everybody safe. So fortunately, we have 3 children, 22, 19 and 15. It was the Easter holidays shortly. And they were home. Luckily, my daughter who lives in Yorkshire had already come home. And so the compromise was that we would keep the business open, send all our staff home and furlough most of them, and bring in the children. So that's what we did. So we literally, we just got down into the warehouse, and any orders that were outstanding, you know, we sent those out, and we did everything, which actually, I actually quite enjoyed it because I was right there with my product, with the family, and you know, we just did the best we could. And what was wonderful was the support from all the customers, you know, who appreciated that we were continuing.
And how did your children feel about were they dragooned into this, or did they volunteer, or, you know, how did they feel about it?
Oh, no, they were totally behind us, totally. I mean, they've grown up, they are Kettlewell children, you know. Yes. My youngest was born, you know, practically in the warehouse. You know, so they have been with us all the way along through the journey. They work for us for pocket money in the holidays, so they're quite used to it.
Yeah, so they were quite happy to become your staff.
Yes. I've still got one of them downstairs, actually. She's at university, so she's always needing a bit of money. So she's still working for us now.
Okay, brilliant. And just tell us where you're physically located.
So we're in Somerset. I don't know if any of you know Cricket St Thomas, but we're on a trading estate, and we've got fields all around us, so it's very pretty. We used to be in Crewkerne, and before that we were in Isle Brewers, so all in Somerset. and it's just been lovely being in the countryside, really, because John and I both used to live and work in London.
Yeah. And did you move down to Somerset when you started the business?
Exactly. So we had the two girls in London, and John and I both grew up in the countryside, and we wanted that for our children, to give them a bit more space. The problem was that we both had jobs that were very much London based. So we had to think of a new business plan.
And what were you doing before? Were you entrepreneurial? Had you had experience of starting businesses and things?
No, well, John had always had his own business in audiovisual. He used to install home cinemas and hi-fis and things. But I worked for a fashion company for 15 years and worked my way up, and I was very happy there. And I learned a lot about what I know now. You know, I learned a lot working there, but it certainly wasn't commutable. It was very much hands-on. So John was the entrepreneur. He's the one who, he always sort of thinks, well, you know, if somebody else can do it, why can't I? I'll just find out a way. So he has that kind of attitude. I suppose I'm the one with the passion for the color and the detail. So we're actually a very good team, a good partnership.
And so what came first, the idea for the business or the desire to move down to Somerset? You know, how did that evolve?
Okay, so it was definitely, the idea was to move out. I mean, we had all sorts of ideas, and we sat at the kitchen table with a bottle of wine or two and, you know, toyed with all sorts. But for me, colour just kept coming back. It was just, I've got to do something with colour. It's been, you know, it's been part of my life for many, many years. And I mean, even since I was a small child, going to my grandmother's wardrobe, and she, you know, she had a wonderfully colourful wardrobe, and I used to go in and she'd say, well, look at this colour, and you put this combination together and look what happens. So I already had that from a very young age. And I suppose really the next thing was having my colours done. I don't know if any of you have had your colours done, but for me it was a revelation, because working in a fashion company in London, everyone wore black. I wore black. I wore black, white, grey, navy. And as you can see, I'm in this sort of bright green and coral. Black doesn't like me very much. So when I had all these drapes put around me and I could see all these colours, and my eyes were just lighting up, and my skin, I just looked browner, I just looked healthier. And so I just said to the lady at the time, I said, oh my goodness, I've just got to go and buy some turquoise immediately. Where can I go? Where can I get it? And it was sort of about November, December time. And she said, well, you won't find those lovely light, bright colours now in the middle of winter. You'll have to wait till the springtime. And I just thought, I'm not very patient anyway. I just thought, I can't wait till the spring. I want it now. Why isn't there a shop where you can just go and buy colour all year round, depending whatever your colouring is? So that stayed with me, that thought. I can't be the only one who wants to wear colour, surely.
That's really interesting, because I've got it into my head, you know, recently, that I am not going to buy black or grey or navy, not exactly ever again, but I'm going to steer away from those colours, because I go into a shop and I'm drawn immediately to those kind of colours, because like you, they're always there, they're ubiquitous. You go into any shop and there's masses and masses of those colours. And also they sort of are my colour. I mean, grey, you know, it's just like my wardrobe could be full of grey clothes. Yes. But I find that if I do go into a store, if I go into a department store, it's just so hard to find colour, even now. You know, there is a bit more, but even now I find it really restricted. So I think what your idea was absolutely brilliant, to say there must be people who want colour, and we're actually going to satisfy that. I mean, that's the whole entrepreneurial spirit, isn't it? You say, I can't get this, I want it, there must be other people who want this.
And let's find a way how to do it. So and I suppose the other thing with colour is, you know, I've been on quite a colour journey. So when I discovered these colors, I'd go into a shop and I'd think, oh, is it or isn't it my color? Is it, you know, I wanted to get it right. And then there are so many shades, and then the lights vary the colors. So that was the other thing that we did. We thought if we could label the colors so that people who had had their colors, rather than looking, you know, online where screens are always different, they could see, oh, okay, so I'm a spring and it's labeled SP, then that must be for me. And I think that's what's really helped people. And also the other thing that's been fantastic for me, and I think for other customers too, is that once you start buying your colors, they all work together. So you have this wardrobe. So you're not constantly looking for things like, oh, what do I wear with that, or what do I wear with, you know, you don't have to do all that matching. It's just like all goes together. I mean, I'm a spring, so my colors are very, very bright. So I do need to have a lot of creams and my bright navy, my blues and things. Otherwise I do look a bit crazy, as my husband tells me. But you know, you can tone it down. Everybody has their neutrals. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think spotting that gap in the market was a masterstroke. You know, it's brilliant because you definitely have occupied that place extremely successfully, in my view, and continue to do so. I mean, because of what you produce, it's fantastic. And obviously, for me, with Look Fabulous Forever, we have also the challenge of selling makeup online. I decided before I launched that I would divide things into warm tones and cool tones, because how else would I describe this lipstick? You know, it's not going to suit people who are cool, warm toned or cool, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I think I also came to colour through having my colours done, you know, way back, and understood that if you got it right, and it's the same, it's the same for us with lipstick. If you get it right, you can have 6 cool toned lipsticks and they will all work.
And they all work, exactly.
So it's like a shorthand, isn't it? Really shortcut for making sure that things go.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about the sort of designing the clothes. How do you go about deciding what the range is going to be, and the sort of design element of your clothing?
Okay. So I don't know how other designers work. I mean, in my last job, the designers they'd always be sketching, and then they would get samples and they would produce them. I do have a designer who does the sketches, but for me, it evolves. The design evolves all throughout the year. So I'm always, you know, I listen to customers. What is it that customers are wanting? I'm obsessed with body shapes. I'm obsessed with coloring and fabrics and quality. So what I do is I'm finding inspiration from everything around me. You know, I could just be on the beach and see some pebbles. I could be in a shop and I'm in the back of a queue and I can see somebody wearing a print, or I've even followed somebody halfway home from, you know, the train because I wanted to see how their top was made, you know, and I go into shops and I look at all the labels. So, and constantly I'm sending images and pictures to the designer, and then we talk about it and she sketches them. And then we have a whole mood board of ideas, and then we look at them and we try to get something, you know, a good range, a good mix of styles that are going to work in our factories, you know, in the fabrics. That's really how it evolves.
Tell us all a little bit more about that. So when you started, you obviously had to find to source these clothes. Didn't you? You had your idea, the color idea. You also had your designs in mind. So what was the next process there?
That was actually a real challenge, and I think we were quite hard on ourselves to start with because we weren't very happy with the first collection. But actually now I look back and I think, gosh, we did brilliantly to get anything produced at all. Because you go into a factory and you say, I'd like all these colors, but I want really small quantities. And they just look at you like you're mad. You know, they want you to put an order in for thousands of pieces in one color. And of course we couldn't do that. We were starting off from nothing. So, you know, we were lucky that we found an agent in Turkey who negotiated for us, and we just started with something. And just to get started, really, we then did all the learning afterwards, I would say.
And where do you get your clothes made now?
So we're with the second factory that when we first started, and that's in Turkey and also in Portugal. We now work with 3 factories in Portugal, a jersey factory, knitwear and leather. But in Turkey, we've been sort of 14 years with this factory, and they're like friends. In fact, all the factories we work with, we're really good friends with them, and we have a fantastic relationship, and I go and visit them regularly. Sadly, I can't go at the moment, obviously. You know, and so we have a really nice relationship, and they're like boutique factories. So I sort of feel, you know, we have this great trust. You know, the price is fair. They pay their workers really. You know, they look after their workers. Even in Turkey, you know, they provide lunch for them. They really look after them. So it's a nice place to work, and they have people who work there now for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years.
You hear such terrible stories, don't you, about sweatshops and you know, people being I don't know whether you saw the film Greed. I think it was it's sort of Steve Coogan who's brilliant in it, and it's based on the life of Philip Green of Topshop fame. And I tell you, it doesn't paint an extremely flattering portrait of him for sure. But you know, there are scenes there where he's in India and he's basically negotiating the price down and down and down, and the guy is trying to resist him, and he's saying, you know, I'm not paying that, I'm not paying that. And in the end, the guy caves in and agrees, and then he goes to the shop floor, you know, the floor where all the mostly women are sewing, and says, your wages are all going to be cut. And you know, they're barely on subsistence wages anyway. So I mean, from an outsider's point of view, because I know nothing about the rag trades as such, that horrifies me, because the whole idea that, you know, we have clothes but at the expense of other people's distress almost. And it's quite interesting to hear your story, because you're obviously very keen for that not to happen.
Yes, I think if you buy something and it's really, really cheap, you should ask yourself, why is it so cheap? You know, that there is a chain. You know, for me, I'm really, really passionate about producing quality garments that are ethically produced. It's the only way I want to do business. And when the factory gives me a price, if it's too much, I probably reconsider the design and rethink it. We do try and negotiate a little bit, come to an agreement, but it's very much, you know, give and take, and we come to a fair price. And that's the way that I like to do business, because I think if it's good for everybody, it's good business.
Yeah, I as somebody who has a business with a supplier, so we have somebody who obviously supplies our makeup here in the UK, and we have a brilliant relationship with them, and it's exactly the same kind of thing. It's important to me as it is to you that that the whole thing is ethically run, because otherwise I would feel as somebody who was in the retail trade, if you like, that it would taint the brand if I felt somebody was being exploited in the process of us producing our stuff. And you know, and it must be the same for you, because you know, those beautiful clothes that you've got hanging behind you, they have to be imbued with that sense of an ethical source, if you like. So it's good to hear that you have that kind of relationship with your suppliers, because I think it's really important. So let's move on a little bit to body shapes and things like that, because I know people listening and watching this will be particularly interested in that. So how do you go about assessing somebody and advising them in terms of what will suit?
Okay, so first of all, there are these lovely colour consultants, and we've got a lot of them on our website who actually help people, you know, on an individual basis or in groups, and they are phenomenal. They can do your colours and your style and your body shape. But obviously not everybody, I think when they start on their colour journey, or when they come to us, they're not ready for that. So you have to be ready to see, you know, somebody for that individual advice. So what we try to do is give as much advice as we can. To start them on the journey. So we have something called a colour quiz. So you can, it's just a series of fun questions that helps you get into the mindset of which colours might suit you. And you can scroll through and see all the different seasons and read about them. And then in addition to that, we decided to do a style quiz. So like some people, you know, like I would call myself a sporty princess, or you might be a pirate, or you might be, you know, very romantic, you know, so it's trying to understand what, sorry?
What's a pirate?
I suppose it's that, yes. I don't know, I think of sort of stripes and lots of drama and angles and things and a bit of fun and quirkiness.
Oh, okay.
But it's sort of, I mean, I suppose really the clothing personality is more about how you accessorize, but still there's also necklines that lend themselves to certain styles. So for instance, romantics, I mean, they look wonderful showing all their cleavage. It doesn't look naked for them, but I'm a princess, so if I show too much cleavage, like that's why I have a camisole here, you know, it just looks wrong. So it's understanding things like that. So we have a quiz that helps you, you know, go through that. And then the body shape, and I suppose I used to ignore the body shape a little bit because I thought, well, I can't do everything. But I've realized now, even with t-shirts, even with simple garments, it's really important to understand that shape. So, you know, and a lot of it's to do with your shoulders. People always think it's their bust, waist and hips. It's shoulders. That's where the balance comes from. That's the architecture. And you can see I've got very broad shoulders. So it's shoulders, waist and hips. And because my hips are as wide as my shoulders and I go in at the waist, I'm an hourglass. For a lot of people, they think if they've got a big tummy, they must be an apple shape. Well, not necessarily. It's like, you know, it's to do again with your shoulders and your hips in line, and perhaps you go straight down the middle, then you'll be a column. And a pair, you know, you'd have very, very narrow shoulders, you know, and wider hips. And if you understand what you are, then it makes sense about how clothes hang and which necklines to wear, and whether you need to have, you know, small round necks or wide necks or square necks, you know, angular or curved, you know, so you follow the body shape, and ultimately you want to find balance with your body and the clothes that you wear.
Absolutely. And in fact, if you see somebody wearing the right shapes in terms of clothing, yes, for their body shape, the difference can be amazing. You know, I remember on when Trini and Susanna used to do their program. Yeah. When the person started off and they looked fairly ordinary, and then when they got them into the right shapes and did all the right sort of draping and all that sort of stuff for their body shape, the difference was fantastic. And of course it makes people look a lot taller and slimmer if they're wearing the right shapes, which is what most people want, to look taller and slimmer, don't they?
Exactly. Well, talking about my shoulders, because I've got broad shoulders and what I consider a large bottom, I used to want to cover my bottom. So I'd wear long tunic tops straight from here down past my bottom. And of course, what you get is that. And then where's my waist? Hidden. So when my stylist, you know, after having my colours done, I went to have my style done, said to me, what you need to do is always go in at the waist, and you're going to create that. And literally without losing any weight, no diets or anything, people would say, wow, you've lost weight. So that's what it can do for you.
Yeah, it's interesting because the quickest way that I can look really enormous is to wear any kind of A-line dress. You know, the sort of dress which is very loose and floaty. Yeah. And because I lose my best bit, which is the fact that I do actually have a waist and I haven't got a very big tummy, but I've got quite big hips, and I haven't got nice legs. So if I've got these really nasty milk bottle legs sticking out of the bottom of an A-line dress, I look hideous. But
you've learned that now.
I don't wear a dress like that. But I see other women with great legs, and they're a bit round in the middle, and they're wearing a dress like that, and they're probably dressed really breasted up with a wonderful necklace or a great scarf. They look amazing.
It's amazing.
And I look at them and think, oh, I'd love to look like that, you know, and I just look really horrible. Any kind of trends that you're spotting for autumn, winter? Any sort of thoughts about what might be coming down the track?
Well, I suppose with us, you know, I try not, it's a nod to trends rather than following trends. I mean, because, you know, we're very much about wearing colours and styles that suit you for your lifetime rather than following a trend. But I mean, I suppose prints really what you get on with trends. And I mean, every time I always look, there's always a bit of animal print that comes through,
Yeah.
which, because it's always popular. And a bit of check again. I think last autumn winter there was a bit of check that came through. And I think loungewear, because loungewear is so big, because obviously people have been at home, you know, I think it'll be interesting to see what different types of loungewear we'll be getting. You know, comfortable, but using different fabrics and different shapes, and maybe a little bit, you know, because we've all got these Zoom meetings, you know, it's going to be interesting to see whether, I don't know, big shoulders come back in, or I don't know. But certainly for me, yeah, the colour, you know, it's the colour for us. I mean, we've got next season, we've got our best-selling super soft sweatshirts. I mean, they sold out in a flash. But we've got some really, really good colours coming in. So you can be wearing a sweatshirt, but you've got this wonderful colour here, you know, for the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, gorgeous. And I think there's a couple of things if people are working more from home. One is it's going to be a lot more casual. You know, somebody was saying to me the other day, I mean, there is absolutely no reason to buy business clothes anymore. You know, something that's a bit more formal that you would, you know, you would put on to go to work. It's just all gone by the by. So it'd be interesting if that continues. And the other thing is how important it is to look good at the top. I mean, I've done all these, I think I've done 65 videos, which I did in this Tea Time at the Ritz series.
Yes.
And I was wearing Sweaty Betty stretchy, you know, lycra leggings.
Should we ask you to stand up then?
I've actually got trousers on today. But the whole thing was that it didn't matter what I looked like from sort of here down.
Yeah.
And so I all that mattered, and it's actually quite interesting if you're on a lot of Zoom type calls. You have to make sure that the top half is looking good.
Yes.
That was absolutely brilliant, Melissa. Thank you so much. I think what we'll do now, if everybody is ready for that, is that please don't disappear, because I know some of you are a bit in some degree of trepidation about this bit, but it is fun and it does work, and we'll give you lots of warning and so on. So stay online and you will be directed to click on a link which Bryony will give you. She'll start putting us all into groups, and you just wait. There'll be a little bit of a hiatus while we wait, and then you click on that and you'll find yourself in a smaller group with 5 other people in minutes or so to have a nice chat. So I'm going to say goodbye to Melissa for a little while, and we'll get that organised in my group. So I hope everybody else had a nice session, meeting lots of other people and finding out all about their lives. We had people from all over the place.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I'm going to hand over to you, Bryony, for the question session, please.
Perfect. We've had lots of questions. We had quite a few through to our email before we started, and also the chat function. There's really been lots of questions today, so thank you for everyone for putting the questions forward. Melissa, first of all, Susan has a question. She wants to know how you find it working with your husband, and are any of your children planning to come and work for the business full time?
Okay. My husband and I met when we were, well, I was 16, he was 17. So I think we know each other pretty well now. And I think when we started the business together, we had no idea who was going to do what or what our strengths and weaknesses were. And I think we were just very lucky that we are very complementary. So I love working with him. He may say differently. The children, I mean, they've all, like I said before, they've all worked, you know, here in the holidays. None of them have shown interest to take over the business or work full time. So they're still young, so we'll see.
Okay. Carol wants to know what you're foreseeing the challenges are going to be for the rest of the year, so the rest of 2020. Obviously, it's been quite a difficult year so far with coronavirus. Is there any sort of particular challenges that you can see happening for the rest of the year?
Yes, I mean, I feel like we've been very, very lucky in that our customers have, I feel very supported by our customers. I mean, all the way through this period where we thought, oh my goodness, we've got a warehouse full of stock and we're never going to sell it, you know. And yet we have something called the Kettlewell Colour Club, and the ladies on there have been posting themselves wearing, you know, the Kettlewell clothes and how they wear it. And there's been an enormous support from them. So we've got to the point now where actually we're very low in stock. So I suppose going forward, I'm so grateful, but I'm still nervous about what's going to happen in the autumn. What happens if there's another lockdown? What happens, you know, if people have lost their jobs and then they, you know, they don't have the finances anymore. You know, you just don't know. Everything is so unexpected. So I have been placing orders with the factories. We have got stock starting to come in. It will all be in September. And it makes me nervous that, you know, we got to a point, you know, a comfortable point where, you know, the warehouse was low in stock and now we're filling up again. Will we ever sell it? You know, that's always my challenge.
No, of course. Jella has a really interesting question. And she said that at her age, obviously complexion starts to fade and hair starts to turn grey. And she's had her colours done before in the past. And she wants to know whether she should be thinking about having her colours redone. Do you need to have your recolours done as you get older?
Well, we had a similar question actually in our group. I personally would definitely advise to have your colours redone as you get older, because even though your seasons shouldn't change, actually the way you wear your colours and you know, for instance, you might suit one end of the palette better than the other end of the palette, the brighter end or the softer end. You can play with your colours. You know, like for instance, autumn can look very different from a rich, vibrant autumn to a soft, subtle autumn. You know, there are different looks, and as your skin changes over the years, the colors that you suit will change and the way that you wear them will change. And if you get a re-rating, I think it gives you a you know, a real boost of confidence again.
Yeah. Question from Anna. She wants to know if there are any plans at Kettlewell to start to use older models in your catalogues.
Yes, this comes up, you know, regularly, and we also are often asked for larger models as well, and real people. And you know, I always consider everything. Up till now, sort of practically and logistically, we haven't been able to do this. I mean, we can do it in the catalogues. It's really hard because we're looking at getting our samples in from the factories when the goods aren't even made yet. And our shoot days are jam-packed trying to get everything in. So using a professional model in the right colors it's quite a challenge anyway. And then when you're trying to look for somebody specific of a specific age in the right season, it just gives us more challenges. So in the book, it's really hard logistically to do that. But with things like our color club, you know, the ladies are all ages and sizes in there, and it's a fabulous place to see the clothes on, you know, real people. And you know, we're trying to do more blogs and things so that people can see the clothes on other figures.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's great. That lots of people love to sort of see on the Colour Club and on your blogs as well, sort of go across as many different people as possible. Just one final question from Deborah. She wants to know what is the process behind introducing a new colour to your range? So just a quick overview of when a new colour comes into the range, what is that top line process of how you go about that?
Well, I like to be, my husband always tells me off for this, but I like to be fair. I like to be fair to all the seasons. So I always look at what we've got in stock and what we're missing, and try and distribute the colours for all 4 seasons. But sometimes you'll find that you've got, you know, a blue for winter and then a blue for summer, and then, you end up with too many blues and they can look quite similar on the screen. So I have to vary it in terms of how they look as well, choose different colors. And I mean, the most difficult colors to achieve are the winter colors, because they need to be really pure and intense. So I do lab dip more winter colors, and then I go with the color that's strong, you know, comes through in production that's strong enough. So I probably have to be a little bit biased to the winters because they're very difficult to achieve.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Trisha, back to you.
Bryony, can you hear me? I've lost.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're back.
I lost that bit. Sorry. Has Melissa finished answering the question?
Yeah. All the questions are done. Really good questions.
Yes,
So sorry, everything froze for me just briefly there, but I'm back in now. So that was the end of the questioning. Bryony, no more?
Yeah, lovely. It was great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I just want to wrap this up by, on behalf of everybody who's been watching, to thank you very much, Melissa. That was absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed it very much indeed. I think you've got a fantastic business. You really deserve to be successful because you've spotted this wonderful and amazing gap in the market, and you've filled it so brilliantly in my view. And you know, I'm so glad you've got through lockdown intact.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Challenges that there's been. I know from our business the same thing. It's been a bit of a nail-biting time, but those people who are still standing, you know, onwards and upwards, and let's hope for it to get better. But yeah, big thank you to you for stepping in at the last minute, but also for you know, really interesting conversation. And you know, it's been great to talk to you. So thank you.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. And as I said, I'm sure everybody really enjoyed it. Bye bye then. Thank you. Bye bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.